So greetings and welcome. In this session, we'll be discussing a little bit of Sitecore Content Hub and also sharing some valuable insights to ensure the success of your implementation. Allow to introduce myself. I'm José Neto. I'm originally from Brazil and Portuguese is my mother tongue. But these days I'm living in the capital of Estonia, in Tallinn. And if you are not sure where that is, please check the slide. And although the official language here is Estonian, most of people do speak English. And even though Brazil is pretty far, I try to make a trip back home when I can. And, for the past 8 years, I've been lucky enough to work with Sitecore platform, and I absolutely love sharing what I know with all the developers in the community. And that is basically why I write my blog posts, and I try to give tips about things that developers and marketers face every day. And for me, it's very satisfying to do these things and share through my blog and see people that read my posts and say thanks to me that I was able to help in some way. So I'm grateful to be able to do this kind of work, and I'll keep sharing. These years, I was so thrilled to receive the recognition of Sitecore MVP, and I'm proud to be part of this group of individuals who are recognized by their contribution to Sitecore community. And another way you to stay engaged with the community is by participating in the Sitecore Hackathon each year. We talked about it already, but this is like an exciting event that brings together developers from all around the globe to create an innovative project and trying to test your own limits. And I found this to be like an excellent opportunity to connect also with other developers, learn new skills, and gain exposure to cutting edge technologies as well. Furthermore, I've been part of the Setcore Community Mentor program, and it was been reward experience for me to work with these Aspire MVPs, and I have learned a lot in this process as well, and it's really good to me. In conclusion, I feel very fortunate to be part of a vibrant community of developers, and I'm committed to try to give back what I learned in all those years. And I look forward to continue participating in the Sitecore community and contributing to its growth and success. In this presentation, I want to take some time to give a big shout out to Gohar's team. We have been participating in these competitions for almost a decade already, and always pushing the limits and come on the top of that. And we think it's super important to give ourselves some props for this hard work. So let's take a moment in this presentation to recognize this team achievements with like a special slide dedicated to the team. So hurrah to Gohar's team. And regarding the Sitecore Hackathon this year, we participated in the exam cloud category. And if you don't know or never heard about Sitecore Hackathon, it is essentially an event where like the participants must create their own Sitecore implementation in less than 24 hours. So it puts a lot of pressure on everyone. And our team has been taking part in this competition for the past 7 years, and we always manage to deliver a model within the time limits imposed by the competition. We talked about that already. We won twice, recently a couple years ago, and this year we participate in the exam cloud category. It was really interesting to participate in this category this year. It's new stuff, and in this event you basically requires like a lot of caffeine for you, and you don't sleep, and allows you to push your own limits while have some fun. So if you never participate in the event, I highly recommend you to create your own team and participate with us next year. So we're talking about the composable world. in the SUG-CON. So let's take a look into the composable concept. So the idea of a monolith or a composable solution has been around for quite some time already. And we can even recall some old TV shows to fully grasp this concept. So if you are from Brazil or from Japan, you might recognize the images displayed on this slide. But if you are not, let me explain. So these two images are from a popular TV show from the 90s. And the image on the left shows a spaceship that could transform into a giant robot capable of fighting gigantic monsters. And this TV show was truly awesome that time. This guy was the Jaspion, and he was the one fighting all those monsters. And on the right, we can see, actually on the left, you can see the spaceship robot. It's like it was like kind of a hybrid and perfect example of how we one solution, like just like a monolithic system, right? And but it lacked the flexibility to adapt it to new situations. And a composable solution, on the other hand, would have allowed our hero here to swap out the components as it would need to tackle like new challenges. And this would make much more powerful him and adaptable. And Rodrigo was talking about being adaptable, and that's what composable future will be for us. So if you fast forward 10 years, the Americans also had this like a similar show. They introduced like, this very similar TV show called the Mighty Power Rangers, and it was also popular in Brazil, and was very popular in the US as well. And basically, it featured a group of people fighting off monsters. And they also had like a gigantic robot, but unlike the spaceship in the previous TV show, it didn't have the ability to travel the galaxy. But in both series, the fights were taking place on Earth, so you might not need it like intergalactic spaceship at all, right? So the difference was that this robot here, it needed 5 pieces to be assembled. So each piece was a small robot with its own function and separate responsibilities. So this was basically a composable solution. So where a larger solution basically was divided into smaller pieces. And that's what you're seeing, and that's what's happening to our industry today. And that's what's happening with the Sitecore DXP solution. Basically, instead of Sitecore being an all-in-one solution like the spaceship in the previous TV show, now we are breaking into smaller and more modular pieces. So this approach offers a number of benefits over traditional monolithic systems, including greater flexibility, scalability, and agility as well. So Sitecore is to be a big product that had everything needed for a great digital experience platform, right? But now Sitecore has broken into smaller pieces and smaller products, and each one with their own specific job. This picture here is from the last symposium and shows that Sitecore isn't one big product anymore. So now it's but a whole bunch of different functions and features. So what are those products and what they do? Well, Content Hub 1 is a big platform for managing everything to do with content creation, production, and management. And Content Hub Dam, the digital asset management, is a specific product in their platform that only focuses on managing digital assets, right? So the focus on this tool would be managing digital assets like images, videos, or audio files as well. We can also talk about the CDP. The CDP is a product that collects, manage, and put together customers' data from different places in order to create a single customer profile. So you also have the personalized. Personalized lets business delivers like personalized experiences to customers using Sitecore AI and also machine learning. So finally, we can also have Sitecore Search. It is a product that makes it easier to the users to find what they need in a Sitecore website. And all these products together let business build up and manage their digital experience platform. So, okay, listen up. We got a couple products we're dealing with here. Content Hub 1 is one of them. And it's not same thing as Sitecore Content Hub. And even though it might look like a new version of it first, it's not. So it's actually a standalone product that's a bit simpler and easier to use. Think of like a lighter weight version of a headless CMS. So it's all about content creation and management without anything extra. And one big difference between Content Hub 1 and the Content Hub is the Content Hub 1 is a headless CMS, which means that it keeps the content management and the presentation part, basically separated part. So this lets developers use whatever they want to deliver the content, which is a pretty cool feature. So now here's the deal. This presentation we're going to do right now is about Content Hub DAM, not about Content Hub 1. So there are two different things. So we are not going to go into detail in Content Hub 1. Instead, we're going to focus on what we are here to talk about, which is the Content Hub DAM. So, all right, now we know the difference between the products. We know the difference between Content Hub. We know the difference between Content Hub 1. I think you was able to get this. So let's talk about how to get your Sitecore Content Hub up and running. So the step one is to create a project with a clear date, the scope, your milestones, and figure out who is involved, and we can plan basically everything out, right? So, but here's the thing. Every project is going to be different. Even if you've done a bunch of similar projects before, each one's going to have its own unique needs and challenges. So we got to figure out what we're trying to accomplish with this project. And also which models we need to use, like the DAM, the CMP, the products, or the digital rights management. Then we need to break everything down into phases, with the discover phase being the most important of all. So once you got all that sorted out, it's time to get to work. We'll be making all the configurations you need and get everything set up just right. And when it's all good to go, we'll be launching the tool for real and getting into the hands of our users. So when you are getting started on the project, we gotta make sure we're talking to the client and get all the deeds that we need. The discover phase is super important. And if you want to get Sitecore Content Hub up and running without any issues, here are some things that you got to think about during this phase. So we need to think about the branding, taxonomies, data sources, renditions, transformations, and secured and user groups. And if we focus on these important things during the discover phase, you can make sure that the Content Hub is set up just right for the client. This means that the project will go smoothly and will be probably a total success. So when you're talking about branding, it's kind of like how presents are wrapped during the Christmas. The wrapping may not be the most important part of the gift, but it is definitely adds to the overall feeling of the season. So similarly, when setting up Content Hub for a client, you want to make sure their brand is consistent through the platform. You can ask for their styling guide, which is like a rule book that has all the approved colors and logos. And with this in hand, you can configure Sitecore Content Hub DAM to match their brand and give it the same look and feel. So think like this. The company might have other websites, and it would be weird for the users to connect to this new website, and this new website basically doesn't follow the brand, right? So that's what we're trying to achieve here. Other thing is the taxonomies. So taxonomies are like the secret sauce of organizing and extracting the content. By doing that right, you can make sure that everyone can find what they're looking for, from people create the content to the folks trying to find it. And an effective taxonomy should be easy to understand and make it super simple to find what you need. Think of like a map that guides you to the treasure. So check it out on this slide. We've got a sweet way of classifying animals. So we got the ones with spines called vertebrates and the ones without it called the invertebrates. So the vertebrates are then split up into categories based on body temperature. We have warm-blooded and cold-blooded. Meanwhile, the invertebrates are separated in two groups based on whether they got likes or not. So now, why this is important? Well, when it comes to searching for images in Content Hub, having a solid taxonomy, it is the key. So it helps people find exactly what they're looking for without having them to go through a bunch of relevant images. So by setting up these clear and well-defined taxonomies, we can make sure that the search tool will deliver the results by basically matching what the user wants. So in fact, if you nail down a taxonomy, it's or like coming up with your own, it's a huge part of this discover phase. And so let's make sure we got all that started out. So data sources. So let's discuss data sources a little bit. Basically, data sources are where the images will come from. Initially, you can assume that they will come from Sitecore Media Library. However, there might be other sources of the images as well. So, for example, the company may use SharePoint and have like hundreds of images stored over there. The images can also be located somewhere on the network, or also the company may using digital asset management tool as well. So it is important to plan how to get access to all those tools and also and map those tools, right? Make sure you listed all those data sources. So we need to identify all the data sources. So this is the crucial step on this. So it will allow you to determine the scope and the project, the plan accordingly. So by knowing where the images are located, you'll be able to develop a strategy together and integrate all those things in your project. So this will ensure that you'll be able to get all the images and deliver the project within the time frame and the budget. So in summary, identifying all the digital assets that your company has, it's an essential part of this planning process. So by understanding where the images are located, you can develop your strategy for accessing and integrating them to the project. Renditions. So when you manage digital assets like images, videos, renditions are super important for making sure that the website or the apps will run smoothly and people have a good experience as well. So basically a rendition is a different version of an asset that's optimized for different devices, screen size, or let's say a specific use case. So to make sure your digital assets will work well in all situations, it will be key to decide ahead of time what renditions you need and how you're going to use those renditions. So this means looking to things like resolution, aspect ratio, file size, image format, and among others. So you need to build a solid plan for handling those renditions. In this way, you can make sure that your website will load faster, people will keep engaging in the website, or even might improve your SEO score, right? So plus it can save you a bunch of time and effort by automatizing process of creating and managing different renditions. So if you still didn't get anything about renditions, let me try to give you some examples about that. So one rendition that you might create could be like a high resolution image for a desktop device. You could also, let's say, create a smaller and compressed image for a mobile device. Let's think another one. You could create a thumbnail image for using the gallery or a grid layout. Thumbnail images are very useful, and in your implementation of Content Hub, anyone that you check will always see a rendition for thumbnails. Let's think in more renditions as well. So it can be also a video, let's say a version of a video that will be optimized for streaming or slow internet connection as well, right? So you might need an audio file for in a different format or for different browsers or different devices as well. You can also think in a rendition for a PDF, like a PDF that you want to have in a different resolution or for just for printing. Next thing would be transformations. So the transformations are essential in an aspect of preparing the assets for being used across like different channels. So this process will involve converting files into a format that will be optimized for different platforms as well, such as like mobile devices, desktop computers, let's say social media websites as well. So so consider a scenario, let's say, where a client needs to add an image to a rich text field on Sitecore website, right? So if the image is too large, it might take a longer time to load, causing basically the page to be slow, right? So by utilizing the transformations, we can compress the image and reduce its file size, and thereby like speeding up the paging load time. So how can you basically use the transformations in your project? So this can be achieved by, let's say, using a Sitecore pipeline that will automatically apply the necessary transformations whenever the rich text field is saved. So this customization will ensure that all the images within the rich text are compressed and optimized on your website. So when the user will hit save, you can go to that image, add the parameters, and when the page will load, the transformation will be executed in Content Hub, and you have your optimized image. So using the pipelines and the transformations together can be something really good. And during the SUGCon, one of the presentations, one of the about Content Hub, one of the guys was even talking about that, the power of using the transformations and think in a way that you can use that with your pipelines. We share a code here, but keep that in mind. And security and user groups. So nowadays, I mean, people have numerous accounts across like multiple platforms, and managing all those credentials can be really difficult. And that's why they created this single sign-on. So it was a way to simplify the login process by basically allowing the users to authenticate themselves in a single set of login credentials that would work across basically multiple applications, right? So once you have clear understanding of the client's essential requirements, it is, I would say, relatively easy to enable this feature in Content Hub. But each provider will have their own tweaks and you present their own challenges as well. There are various SSO services available on the market. We can integrate them with multiple options like Microsoft Azure, Microsoft Azure Active Directory, Okta, Identity. It will basically depend on your client preferences. Finally, this conversation with the client regarding the SSO, it is essential, and it will define how the users will authenticate in the Content Hub. But we also need to talk about the user groups and permissions. And you can create permissions for all kinds of stuff, like giving different team access to different assets, or letting people approve content before it gets published. All the cool things that you can set up, and all kind of rules and permissions for each group also can be done. So you have basically total control over what the user can do. So yeah, groups are really handy to keep things organized. And in this phase, you must gather this information from the client and make sure everyone has the proper access to your Content Hub. So one other aspect would be to basically deep dive into the Sitecore implementation. And this is part also in the discovery process. This is the final step, and it will involve like analysis of your Sitecore implementation. This is very critical. It is a critical stage and can be approached to two steps. First, we will involve the development of a set of PowerShell scripts to gather crucial information about the assets and also various aspects about the assets. I would say like including metadata, like tags, keywords, descriptions, and as well as other vital information such as like file format, location, and also the access permissions. And I believe that by leveraging the power of the PowerShell script, this information can be extracted, organized, and it will really help you to get all this information. So basically, these scripts will extract the important details that will guide you to the next step, would be relinking all the assets from your own website to the Content Hub, also using all the PowerShell script. So this analysis and also a compatibility check with Content Hub. Example, you need to identify, of course, Sitecore version. You need to check if it's a headless solution or not. If it will support the connector, probably it will support the connector, but you need to know which version, the connector you need to install, and all those necessary changes that you need to do to basically make that happen. So once all this necessary information has been gathered and compiled into a single document, we are ready to move forward to our implementation phase. So we already got all the information that we need, and now it's time for implementation. And setting up your Content Hub can be a tricky process, yes. And it is super important to make sure it fits your organization specific needs. You got to go over all the info that you gather and use that to figure out what you need to configure your Content Hub instance. So it's not, but it's not just configuration. You also may need to do some code changes, get things customized in a way. And depending on how the code was developed, you might need to update things to make, let's say, the images compatible with Content Hub, And this would mean like tweaking existing code, installing the Sitecore Content Hub connector, and don't forget about the relinking all the images to your website. And once you do this step, you gotta make sure everything looks good and the website is accessible for all your users. Also, testing is very important. You basically will touch all the pages of your website, and I would put a lot of effort on testing and catching those issues are very important during this process. You don't want to release your website with broken images or broken pages. But once you finish configuring and testing your website, your content hub, then it's up and running. Your Sitecore instance will be good to go and your website will be basically ready to launch. And I guess that's it. And well, thank you for you attend this presentation, and I hope you found this informative for you. And also thank you for Rodrigo, the organizer of this event, and giving me this space to share some insights about Content Hub.